Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update.
Support Rainier Avenue Radio comes from Black Art Legacies, a multimedia project highlighting the vital role of Black artists and Black arts organizations, past and present, across the Northwest cultural landscape. Black Arts Legacies include video, photos, and written profiles highlighting 26 local artists and their unique contributions to the arts in Seattle and beyond. Visit crosscut.com/BAL to explore the artists, download podcasts, and more.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe P. And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Tune in to Real Estate and Money every Tuesday afternoon from 2:30 to 3 here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Join your hosts Violetta Strash with John L. Scott Kent North and Tina Lombard with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. They'll help you navigate the waters of our volatile real estate market and offer you some guidance on how to make your hard-earned money work to make your dreams come true. Learn about current trends, get tips on financial matters, and have fun, interactive discussions about your home inside and out. That's Real Estate and Money.
Come on out and join us for Doug Baldwin's annual community barbecue, June 18th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Renton Memorial Stadium. Bring your friends and make some new ones. There'll be music and dancing, delicious barbecue for only $10 a plate, carnivals and games for the kids, and a whole maze of bouncy houses. You can even play catch with former Seahawk Doug Baldwin Jr. and his friends. And there will be a few other surprises. Bottom line, you really don't want to miss Doug Baldwin's annual community barbecue, June 18th, 11 to 3 at Renton Memorial Stadium. RSVP today to reserve your plate by going to uwkc.org. That's uwkc.org. Sponsored by the Seattle Kraken, Seattle Seahawks, and United Way of King County.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Good evening. I am your host, Dupe, and this is Monday Night Sports. And as you know, this is Rainier Avenue Radio. And I promised last week we were going to talk more about the NBA Finals. However, with Game 5 going on, we'll touch on it a little bit. Certainly, we have an expert in David DuPree who will be joining us here in a moment, and he can give us his insight, about the NBA Finals and what's going on. Tied 2-2 right now. And, Boston took the home court advantage by winning one in San Francisco, but then, the Warriors took one in Boston, so evened it out. So we'll see what happens tonight in Game 5. But with that said, one of the things, let's bring David on and joining us, David DuPree.
That's me.
Formerly of USA Today. That's you. Yeah, that's the big DuPree. This is the little DuPree. All right. So, real quickly touching on, man, what's your take and your thought on this finals series so far?
When you have two good coaches, you have good games, and they've got good coaches, and they've got the players. But still, I don't know how Steph Curry with his short, no garden, he's tough. People say he's a great shooter. His game is up here. And when you have to design your entire defense to stop a guy who's barely 6'3", that tells you a lot about him. And I think Curry's the different. They have been able to. Golden State has been able to neutralize Jason Tatum, but Boston cannot do anything with Steph Curry, and that looks like that's going to be the key to the rest of the series.
Yeah, well, when you have a guy that can make shots from anywhere on the floor, I mean, literally, you cross half court, you got to be up on him. I mean, I was watching before the show started here, and Klay Thompson. I mean, Klay, has been up and down a little bit, but I tell you what, that's another guy that, I mean, when he's on, I mean, he can hit it from anywhere. And it was interesting because game one, Boston played what I thought was, that fourth quarter, they came back and won, and I can't remember what they shot. Was it 50% over 50% from 3-point range? And I thought to myself, okay, how often can they do that? I mean, and Golden State wasn't rotating out. They weren't, but still, I mean, David hitting, and people don't understand the NBA 3-point shot. That's a long way away. And your best 3-point shooters in history, again, Steph Curry, he's under 50%. You took Ray Allen, a guy who I got to see day in and day out for a couple, 2-3 years. And I told Ray, I said, man, in practice, he'd come down, he would jack one up. And if he missed, I'm like, dude, man, I never expect you to miss. But I mean, I say that to say those guys are such good shooters, and still they're shooting under 50%. I mean, that is a hard shot.
You know what makes Curry so great is he doesn't have to make a shot. If you don't understand, he's like Tyreek Hill or Deshaun Jackson in football. This guy is speeding down the field. You're going with him, so everything underneath is open.
Open up.
With Steph Curry, if you have to guard him 40 feet from the basket, guess what that does to his 4 teammates? Look at how much room they have to operate. As great a shooter as he is, he doesn't have to make a shot for them to win, which is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Well, like you said, he understands that, and the other thing is that, I mean, his ball handling and his ability to finish at the cup. So I'm a huge Steph Curry fan, and partly because a little guy like me,
But my man is Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson doesn't give a hoot about nothing. I'm shooting it. If you don't want me to shoot it, don't pass it to me. He catch you. He goes.
Doesn't matter if I'm hitting or not. Don't pass it to me.
That's why you are who you are, Klay. Go in and do this. I mean, I think he's hilarious because he will keep shooting too. He will keep shooting.
Yeah, I tell you, and when he's on, watch out, and he can fill it up. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Klay Thompson went to Washington State, and I remember him, as a Cougar. I was like, okay, and mainly because he was Michael Thompson's son. And Michael Thompson at that time, obviously, I think Michael Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, was a number 1 pick, and had a good NBA career.
You remember who the coach was? You remember who his coach was? Why in heaven's name would anybody go to Washington State?
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to look it up. I don't think George Raveling was still.
Oh, that's right. George was there. That's right.
It may be okay. It may have been yeah. I can remember from George Raveling was still there.
I forgot George. Yeah.
That makes a difference. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that was his. But he had a great career, and has done great there. So,
now George was a coach. You talk about George that. That cat would go into your home and say, "Give me your son."
Really?
I would make something of him. I ain't gonna give you nothing, but I'll make something of him. He'll give you something.
Oh, that's funny.
George was cool.
I'm trying to look up to see what years he was there. 72 to hold on. Let me see if he was actually. We'll look. I'll figure it out before the show is done. But with that said, so again, and right now looking at, let me see, into the first quarter, Warriors up by 10, 26-16, and so. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I think that if they can keep home court by winning tonight, obviously gives them an advantage. And you go into that with 2 more games. You got 2 games to win 1. But yeah, I agree with you, David. I mean, and the other thing is that they have some really good role players that know their role and they're getting the job done, as well. And then they got Gary Payton Jr. back, which I think. I mean, people don't realize. I remember Gary Payton Jr., a little guy running around, and his sister, and he is making his daddy proud, I'm sure.
You know what I remember about Gary as much as anything? He always played with that look on his face about, why are you on my court? Get away from me! I ain't paying no attention to you. Give me the ball.
Right.
That look on his face that he didn't want to do nothing to do with nobody.
Yeah.
But he could play though. He could play.
You know, and you talk about a guy, David. I mean, we've talked about this before with Michael Jordan wasn't a great shooter in college. Was a good shooter, not a great shooter, but I mean, took what he did, what he had to do to improve it. Gary Payton is a guy who did not have a jump shot at Oregon State. I mean, he just did, but he was so strong and would post people up. But he developed a shot in the NBA, as well as, I mean, just everything that he brought on the defensive end. But like you said, he had this chip on his shoulder, this scowl, this toughness, and GP never backed down. And I remember Tony B, who started Rainier Avenue Radio. We were both working for it was Clear Channel. It's Clear Channel now, or it was Clear Channel, but working for KJR, basically that organization. And we did a show. He and I did a show around Black History Month, and it was right around the time when the Sonics traded Gary Payton. And Howard Schultz was making some disparaging comments about Gary, and we defended Gary, on air. And I mean, not only was Gary a great player on the court, but people didn't know and hear about some of the stuff he'd done in the community as well. And we talked about that, and people, kind of had a certain feeling about that. But I think it was important to recognize, what he did. But yeah, on the court, like you said, that was. I mean, I don't think there is any player as tough. He reminds me of. We talk about a tough little dude, and Gary's not that little, but Calvin Murphy.
Okay, no, wait, time out. Calvin Murphy crazy. Gary was crazy. Calvin Murphy crazy. That cat could shoot the basketball. Man, Calvin Murphy.
But would not back down to anyone. Would not back down to anyone.
Wouldn't get in anybody's face. Well, his face to their chest, but he would still be up in it.
That's right. That's right. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Monday Night Sports. I'm Dupe, your host, and that's David DuPree. And Dave, I want to shift gears, for a little bit, and with the game going on, and talk a little bit about, and we touched on it last week a little bit, talking about athletes and activism and what have you. But before, I just want people to understand kind of your history and what you have as a journalist, what you have covered, and going back, not to date your age, but again, going back, I mean, you were, and correct me where I'm wrong.
You can't say not to age you, but.
Okay. To put it in context, okay. There's some wisdom there, but no, I mean, you were the first, Black reporter hired by the Wall Street Journal. That was what, 1970 was it?
No, 69.
69. Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me the story. I think I know the story, right? But if I'm not mistaken, you was it John Owen at the PI that somehow you got wind of the PI?
No, it was more ridiculous than that. Me and one of my buddies, I was going to go to grad school and be a teacher, but me and one of my buddies were working out one day, and he said, you know what you're going to do, but I got to get a job. He was a journalism major. I got to get a job. And there's a recruiter from the Wall Street Journal. Just come with me while I hear him speak, and then we'll go. So I go in this room. There's 999 white people. There's 999 journalism majors. And this guy from the Journal gets up and says, what I'm looking for are minority non-journalism majors. And I'm in the back row. I'm in the back row with a workout girl, and I'm like, hey, right here. And he said, and from that, they basically gave me a job. They said, we're looking for, a well-rounded liberal arts education, and we need minorities. And, I talked to him stuff, and he said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Take these courses. He told me what courses it takes, so I would get a double degree in journalism and sociology. And then he got me a job at the PI. He got me a job at the PI. So when I did start with the Journal, when I graduated, he got me a job. So I was with the PI while I was in school. When I graduated, they could pay me more money. They could pay me as a full year's experience instead of just a rookie coming in. So I was lucky. I mean, my whole career has been lucky. I ain't never applied for a job in my life. Right. I mean, I would go to schools and talk to kids, and I would say, I'm going to tell you how I did it, and I'm going to tell you how you got to do it. I'm an exception. It's not going to happen for you like that, because I was a pioneer. I was the first. You ain't the first. You got to put in the work, and you got to do the stuff, And I was lucky, and I know I was lucky. Yeah, to this day, I know I was lucky. I just came along at the right time, and I did have enough wherewithal to figure out what I had to do to stay where I was and maintain it. But I was given all the opportunities.
Yeah, and you and I have had this conversation a lot. I mean, you always talked about education gives you opportunity, opens doors. But we know, and I think we were taught that you once you get a foot in the door, you got to produce, which obviously you have. Which leads me to the last bit of your credentials, and then I want to talk about athletes and activism, some of the things that you covered, and come to modern day, and who I think is one of the most incredible athletes in what he's doing off the court, and that's LeBron James. But you as you were gearing up for retirement, you were selected and got the Kurt Gowdy Award, which recognized the top journalist, and that Hall of Fame ceremony. So when I talk about Hall of Fame, journalist David DuPree, I mean that's real. Your name's there in the Hall of Fame and recognized, and I think as much for what you had done in a particular year, but even more so over your career. So giving our listeners that context. So with that said, though, as you said, so 1969 you started the Wall Street Journal, and was at a time when things were shifting. The civil rights movement. Obviously still. I mean, MLK had been assassinated a year before, but there was a shift going on in this Black pride and what have you. And we got some photos, and we'll kind of, Daniel, if you want to throw them up. I mean, yeah, and that one, I think.
Oh my goodness!
David, if you can talk about that and those guys and the role that they played and what they faced in terms of just activism and opening the door for Black athletes, and broader than just athletes, but talk a little bit about.
I'll tell you, as a little sidelight, you see the person that's standing behind Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Just directly behind him? No. Who is that?
That's a football player named Bobby Mitchell. And Bobby Mitchell was one of the first Blacks to play for the Washington Redskins. And Shirley Povich, who, as you know, was one of my idols, one of the greatest sports writers ever. He wrote one of the greatest stories ever about that. It was just very simple. Bobby Mitchell scored a touchdown, and Shirley Povich said, Bobby Mitchell integrated the Washington Redskins goal line yesterday. And that's something that, that profound and that simple. But you see Bill Russell and Ali and Jim Brown and Ali and stuff, but people like Bobby Mitchell, who goes to a team that is noted to be a racist team, and puts in his time. He became an executive in the front office too. He became a voice for Black players and for football players. And he was one of those people who was always, look where he is. He's standing up behind those guys. He's always in the background, but he was one of those pioneers and one of those people who fought and made it easier for those people in front of him to get what they got also. So, we have to always remember it's the ones we see and the ones we know, there are people even behind them that we don't see and never heard of.
Yeah. No, I certainly know who he is. Didn't recognize him and didn't know that. Can you talk about what these guys faced and the role that they played as far as activism? I mean, again, we're talking, 60s and 70s here.
The thing is that it's amazing that those four guys are in front because they all gave up something. Something has to be on the line in order for you to really achieve greatness. Kareem changed his name from a regular name to a Muslim name in a sport that people already had their eyebrows raised at for being too Black in this and to stand up for what he believed in. And Jim Brown quit when he was on top. I don't need you. I don't need any of you people. I'm Jim blank Brown. Now everybody knows about Ali, all the sacrifices he made. And then Bill Russell will never get his credit for what he did. You know what he did more than anything else? Never lost. Never lost. College, high school, Celtics, Olympics. He was a winner. And he's playing, back when he played, there were like 9 teams. I mean, he had to play that damn freak, Wilt Chamberlain, 88,000 times a year, man to man. Never any double teams or anything like that. And for what he was able to accomplish, and all the time speaking out against things that he did not think were right, playing in it's not fair to label a town, I don't think, but Boston back then was a racist place. And Aaron Red Auerbach and people like that did not stand for that and hated it, but that's just the way things were there. And for Bill to come in like he did, and Casey and Sam Jones and all these other people after him was remarkable. They basically made it okay. They made whites in Boston understand that it was okay to be black. We're not your enemy, And so how's it end up? They're rooting for this black man. He comes in, they're booing him. He leaves. They think he's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. It could have gone the other way if he didn't have the perseverance and the personality that he had to stand up to all these things. Like Bill Russell ain't gonna back down from nobody. You can come at him with a shotgun. He can say, "Here I am. What you gonna do? Are you gonna pull the trigger? If not, get away from me."
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't afraid of anything or any situation. A remarkable human being.
Yeah. And those guys in that photo, and it's interesting because, as you know, I got to know Casey Jones really well when he was here coaching in Seattle, his last head coaching stint in the NBA, and then did camps for him for 4 years. But I'll never forget, he told me a story. And long story short, again, you mentioned, he and Bill Russell were together. They won the national championship their final 2 years at San Francisco, the Olympic gold medal, then went on and for KC 8 of 9 years in the NBA, and Bill Russell, I think it was 11 or 12. We'll talk about that. Just we'll keep that photo up, Daniel. But KC said, like as you said, David, Boston was a racist town, but he said the thing about the Celtics, when we walked through the locker room doors, we became family, and that's why they were able to. And it's interesting about sports and the arts, it just they cross barriers and lines, and it's pretty incredible. And these guys, I mean, and you talk about Peter Norman, the guy who was the silver medalist there from Australia, and was to a certain degree ostracized for what by standing on the podium with Tommy Smith and John Carlos when they held their arms up, their fist up, and talk a little bit about this and the significance of this photo, what those guys did.
When I was growing up, that was the greatest thing I thought I'd ever seen. I mean, it's some of the greatest feats that have happened to me in the civil rights movement there's three moments to me, and two of them are sports, is when you think about what happened. All they did was raise a fist.
Yeah.
Okay. All Rosa Parks did was sit down, and all Colin Kaepernick did was take a knee. Three most non-violent, non-threatening things that an individual can do: stand up, sit down, and take a knee, have turned out to be the most profound things that, in my time, race-wise, that I've ever seen, because it makes people think. And just think about, these guys are anti-American. She's this and that. Colin Kaepernick hates. No. They interpreted however they want, but they didn't say a word, and they didn't cause any violence. Stand up, sit down, and put your arm up, and you make a statement that a million words can't make up. Or Ali, words just, I ain't got nothing against him yet. Something as simple as it's the simplicity of what some people can come up with that makes them great, because people can relate to it. And then the fear then, unfortunately, is if you can raise a fist or take a seat or take a knee and generate that much power from your own people, that's scary to the opposition. When you can see that much unification through a simple act like that, it galvanizes people and brings them together.
David, you make a good point. We're talking with Hall of Fame journalist David DuPree and about sports and activism and the role that athletes have played over the years. And Dave, you make a good point. As and some of the listeners know, I've talked about it before with my son producing in partnership with the co-founders of the Seattle Black Panthers, Aaron and Elmer Dixon, a documentary on them. And as you said, when people come together, the fear that puts in, and for the FBI, saying that the Black Panthers were the number one domestic threat, to America. I mean, and again, when you look at the principles, you look at the 10-point plan, and what spurred them is because the brutality, the racism that they were facing in the Black communities in the mid 60s in Oakland. And they said, no more. And again, they knew their rights, as Elmer said, we were required to read 2 hours a day. They understood the law, and they knew they could carry weapons And what more fearful to law enforcement than you got black men in black leather coats with black berets and rifles standing there watching what you're doing, and that was again, you look at the 10-point program and you talk. I mean, part of it is housing decent and fit for human beings. Making sure. I mean, this is just basic things that they were asking for. And so, as Fred Hampton said, someone you interviewed, said, they were revolutionaries. They weren't extremists. They were revolutionaries trying to change. Make things better, and that's what these athletes, have used their platform, to do. Dan, go ahead. Let's throw up, a couple other quicks. That you've got a couple photos of Kurt Flood and just somebody there. You see Kurt Flood. There's a couple, and the sacrifices he made for free agency. And I don't think people really know. And we got about 5 minutes here, but maybe real quickly, you got Kurt Flood and Spencer Haywood, and maybe can you talk about those two guys and the role they played in opening up more opportunity for the athletes today?
You said the right word. You said athletes. It's not with those two. What they did was not a black thing. Okay, Spencer Haywood made it basically go all the way to the Supreme Court so underclassmen could earn a living. Which, why shouldn't that guy be able to earn a living? And Kurt Flood sacrificing some of the best times of his life for free agency, which is supposedly the foundation of a capitalist society almost, so why is baseball not allowing this to happen? And then whites benefited just as much as him. Okay, sometimes they use the word, you treat us like slaves. Some of these white people are saying, you know what? Damn, man, it's rough being a slave, and it's just people like Kurt Flood who stand up and say, this isn't right. And people, you have to be willing to lose something in order to gain something. And Kurt Flood lost a lot, but what he gained gives him immortality. And then a lot of players, younger players, don't know this, they don't know that, but guess what? They all know who Kurt Flood was. Mm-hmm. I bet you there's not one single baseball player who does not know who Kurt Flood was, because baseball would not be what it is today. And you got to remember, what he did also helped the owners. He helped the owners great, because now they can, wait a minute. You know what? If it's a free agent, I can buy a team. Goodness gracious. This ain't such a bad deal after all,
Right. Yeah.
But again, like I said earlier, you have to put something on the line to gain the respect of those who you are fighting for. And guys like Spencer and guys like Kurt Flood, they put things on the line. They put their careers on the line. And people benefited from them doing that, whereas they may not have benefited as much from it as you would hope. But everybody after them sure did.
Yeah. That's David DuPree. We got 2 more minutes, and the last guy I want to talk about. But you mentioned Spencer, and yes, I mean Spencer put a lot on the line. Like you said, open the door, and you look at the money that NBA players are earning. There he is, and Seattle's first superstar. I mean, Spencer Haywood was a superstar. I remember. I mean, I was young, but him driving around. He lived in I can't remember. It's right next to the Paramount. They had the penthouse, and I mean, he was this ultimate superstar. I mean, you talk about this 6'8" handsome dude, was an incredible athlete, and he was something special.
Don't let Spencer hear you say he was handsome. Please don't never hear the end of that.
Well, I tell you, I enjoyed when we did the 40th anniversary, and Spencer, got a chance to know him, brought him out for a few different events. Yeah, just enjoyed my time with it. We got about a minute left. Dan, you throw the pictures up of LeBron, because David, I mentioned this and just want to get you as we wrap up. So that's LeBron at the ribbon cutting for the public school that he started called I Promise School. And without going into a lot of detail, based on some of his experience, he wanted to make sure that, well, what kids are getting in a private school, that should be in the public school. And so an incredible endeavor that he's doing. That's him at the ribbon cutting. There was him with some kids. We got about a minute left. Talk about just LeBron and the impact he has made. And I think the first athlete they're saying now is a billionaire. Our first basketball player for that athlete. Yeah.
And just remember, for what he has done for education and how he stands for education. And here's a guy who did not go to college, but understood, I'm LeBron James. I don't need college, but the people who I trust, he sent all his buddies to college,
Hello.
He paid for them to go so they could do so. He has all these schools and he's setting up because he understands the importance of education. You can't be me, but you can be like me if you have an education. And he puts his money where his mouth is. One other thing about LeBron, people don't think about it. You know what his wife did when she was in Cleveland thing? One year, she bought dresses for all the girls in school could have a prom dress. Now, who thinks? I mean, little things like that. These girls can't afford it. No. I'm paying for it. Well, my husband's paying for it, but we're gonna get you a prom dress. And little things like that. You have to do little things for little people in order to accomplish big things for big people. And I think LeBron understood that from the very beginning, from the time he was born, even to this day. And his boy, is Warren Buffett. And when you put Warren Buffett on your speed dial, you're gonna wonder why he's a billionaire. Come on.
Yeah. There it is. We're out of time. That's David DuPree. Hope you enjoyed our little talk. A little information about activism and athletes. Join us next week. We'll be right here on Monday Night Sports. Don't go anywhere. Lidline is next with Granville, Pepe, Little O. For Daniel Bellis, our producer tonight. I'm Duke. Peace and God bless.
Out.